give everybody a big round of applause for coming in and joining the webinar today. We're going to do inventory today. I did the last webinar on the new delivery parts in version 11.2 build 2. We'll be working in 11.2 build 2 also today. And we're going to go over inventory. We usually have lots of questions on inventory. Being the channel SA, I field a lot of questions, a lot of phone calls. We have larger entities that also use the inventory with both head office and without. So let's jump into this. There are two ways to do inventory in PixelPoint. The first way is very simple. It is available in both the standard and pro version of PixelPoint. And the light version, it pretty much just enables a standard inventory usage report at the end of the day. Okay? So type 1 would cover it would cover usage, it would cover recipes, things like that. We're just going to jump in. I didn't even prepare a PowerPoint for this because it's easier to show you. So got a little database running here, and we're going to jump in here and take a look at the first way to do inventory. The first way would obviously be you go in here, and I've got an item here called the par burger. Okay, so in the par burger, we've got a recipe tab here, and I've got essentially 3 stock items on my burger. Okay, and well, I'll go back and I'll show you how to set all that up, but I want to show you this simple way for inventory. I've got 3 stock items in here, so as I fill my par burger throughout the day, I'm going to eat up, well, I'm going to eat up 1 beef patty. That's in there as ounces, 8 ounces. I'm going to eat up 1 white bun and 1 ounce of A1 sauce. So as I do that throughout the day, that's just going to count up. Okay. Now the simple inventory doesn't use levels. It's not perpetual. What you would do to find out how much inventory you use during the day, you would go in here to Administrator, System Setup, go to your POS reports, and obviously your end-of-day batch reports. You would simply add a report. We're going here, Pixel Pause, Pixel Reports, and the name of that report would be SQL Pause end-of-day inventory usage. What that would simply do is print out a report on your end-of-day reports that says how much inventory you use that day for that specific, for whatever items you set up that have recipes. Now that's the simple, plain Jane, just want to know what we use that day. Some people use it. Usually the people that use it, they end up wanting to do perpetual inventory, but a lot of people, they just want to keep it simple and go on about it. So, okay, let's go into perpetual inventory. Okay, type 2 perpetual inventory. First thing you would obviously have to do, and you guys have obviously seen this, is you would use Inventory Manager in your system setup. What this does is this tells Pixel to look for the StockBoy agent to be running. If the StockBoy agent is not running on the back end, on the PixelPoint server, then the perpetual inventory service is essentially not working either. So let's come in here. We're going to close out of this and start StockBoy. This is pixelstockmanager.exe. You're fired up, and it's just going to put a little icon down here that looks like a block being taken apart. Okay? Let's take a look at StockBoy. You've got a little message that's flashing. It's working. Okay? We can go into Setup here, and we've got 2 ways to calculate inventory. The first one is average cost. What this does is it essentially takes an average of all the costs that you've received as far as stock item cost per PO. Takes an average cost of all of that. Some people use average cost. Most people that I've seen use last cost, just simply because even with items that fluctuate from day to day, last cost is generally a better indicator of what they're looking for. Now, if you've got an organization that's specifically, for accounting purposes, average cost is a whole lot closer, but most restaurants would use last cost. For this demo, we're just going to use average cost. So we got a couple of options here. We've got disregard negative levels when receiving. What that would do is once you get down to a 0 level, it's not going to count them anymore. You want to pretty much always make sure that's checked. The other check you generally want to always have is that automatically resume stock depletion after process variance. Process variance is essentially your physical counts. Whenever at the end of the day or the end of the week or end of the month, whenever you're going to do your counts, you will enter all your counts in, and I'll show you how to do all that, into the system, and you would process your variance. Your variance obviously comes out and it says, okay, here's what here's what the system says you sold, here's what you said you sold through your physical counts. What's the difference? And that's obviously your variance. Use hold depletion date as end date for the stock take. That's generally not used unless it's going to take you several days to do an inventory count, or in the situation where you're doing a whole lot of training on inventory before a site goes live, something like that, and you can say, okay, we're going to set, the date as here, and we're not going to take anything else out of stock past this date. So that's pretty easy. So we're just going to leave this running. The whole depletion processing, there's another spot in Pixel you can set this. Generally, whenever, especially if you've got a 24-hour store and you need to count inventory, you want to come in and you want to check that whole depletion processing. Because when you count your inventory, if you've still got items going out the door, then your variances are going to be different than what you counted. If you go and count and you've got, 5 cases of hamburger meat, and all of a sudden, in the time it takes you to put that in and process your variance, you go through another half case going out the door, your numbers are going to be off a little bit. So what that does is it queues up all the usage whenever you click on that. You don't lose it, it just queues it up, and then when you uncheck it, it automatically dumps all the usage into inventory. So let's go into back office here, and let's take a look around here. Okay, so inventory. It's, wow, how do you describe it to a restaurant? 90% of restaurants don't know what their plate cost is. If they bring you a hamburger on a plate with fries and a drink and you say, how much did this cost you to make, to the penny? Most restaurants don't know. A lot of restaurants, they base food cost on a percentage of, whatever they charge. With the system, you can get it down to the penny. So there's a lot of advantages there. It's a lot of work to get set up and set up correctly, especially if you have situations where your food vendor changes pack sizes on you. If there's 50 hamburger patties in a case, and then you get another case and it's got 60. There's obviously changes you're going to make sure, especially if you're counting by the case, that you're making an account of those other 10 patties, things of that nature. Most of your food vendors, they keep it pretty solid, but it depends on the restaurant, depends on the concept top. All of those things are factors in it, but once you get it set up, generally it's set, no problem, keep on cranking. So let's take a look here. What if we were to set up our inventory, what would be our first step? Well, obviously we would need to go into all of our products, and we would need to set up our, go back here, So our par burger, we would need to set up our recipes. When you set up your recipes, and I'm actually going to change this one because I've already changed it in the other end. We're going to say it uses 1 patty. So when you set up your recipes, you get certain things in here. You get total recipe cost. You get a product selling price. That's the current price that's the price you've got it set at. And you've got a suggested selling price. I have nothing in total recipe cost because this is brand new. I am just now setting up my recipes, and I haven't received anything, so I haven't assigned a cost to any of these items, any of these inventory items. Okay? So we can go in here and we can look in inventory and we can go to our stocked items. Now, inside here, there's quite a few already set up. Let's go to our beef patty here. Okay, so we've got our description. It's just a beef patty. Unit description, it's obviously the lowest common unit. This is something that's very, very important, especially whenever you get down to differing pack sizes or you change suppliers or something like that. Generally, I tell everyone that, you know, if you're going to count and you're going to order it, you know, you can't always order it, but always count it, your physical counts, to the lowest common denominator, which would be your individual unit. Some people use ounces, and it depends on what it is. It could be a 5-gallon bucket of pickles. You're obviously not going to, you know, pour out the pickles, count them all, put them back in there for usage. You'll probably do that by ounces. So a lot of that, you don't get exactly what it needs to be, but you're going to get close enough. So in my my beef patties here, I've got a unit description of patty. I've got a container description of bag, and I've got a package description of case. Okay. Currently, I've got set 10 patties to the bag. There's 4 bags to the case, and I've got a price per bag at nothing. Now, you just saw there I can hit the edit button whenever that's there. Let me show you something right quick. These areas right here are grayed out for a reason. If you're going along and you need to adjust pack sizes, things of that nature, whenever you hit this edit button, nothing's going to happen if you have negative or positive current stock. Your stock level for the item has to be 0 for this edit button to work. Okay? So say, you know, oh, wait, I messed up. These people, they're using 15 patties to the bag, still 4 bags. Okay. So I can do that because we currently have a 0 stock level on this particular item. Haven't sold any, haven't received any. But when you start receiving them, that'll be grayed out, and this won't be the place to change that. You can come in and you can set up your suppliers. We've got a few in here that I went in and set up. Real easy to do. You can say new item, give it your supplier name, address, phone, all of that type of stuff. And you can also set up, this pulls from obviously all your taxes, specifically if it's liquor or something like that. Let's go into, and also there's some information here. I haven't got it in, but if you select on your supplier, it will show the contact name, the telephone number, and your account number specifically. You've also got primary suppliers. Say Labatt's not the only place we get beef patty from. Say we get some from Joe's Meat Market, which we can add in here. And he can be a secondary supplier for that, okay? Now this is where it gets important in pack sizes, because say at Labatt, I'm getting it 15 patties to the bag, but at Joe's Meat Market, I'm buying it, you know, by the pound. So I've got to know about, okay, well, how big are these? How many are to the pound? Are there 4-to-1 patties? Are there 4 patties to the pound? Are they 6-to-1? Things of that nature. That's where it gets really important to count by the individual unit rather than count by a case or a bag on your physical counts, because you'd rather count, and something like patties, you're generally going to be in a situation where it's a single-size patty. And it's always going to be, even if you get it from somebody else, it's going to be a 1/4 pound patty or a 1/5 pound patty, something like that. You've got reorder levels and par levels. Some people use this, Some people don't. What this does is it engages the system to tell you, okay, I need to reorder patties when I get to a certain low level, things of that nature. You've got an order by selector here, which currently most places you can only order by the case. But I'll show you when we're setting up POs, especially on your counting, you can choose this. You can change this all along the way. Report categories. Generally speaking, people set up a report category for stock items, just simply because it makes it easier on reporting, makes it a whole lot easier finding the numbers versus, something else. Because I know some restaurants, they'll sell a certain size burger and then you can add an extra patty to it. Well, if those names are close to the same, on some of your reports, you're not going to know the difference between, a stocked item patty and then just your menu item patty. So let's take a look here. We got yield 100%. What that has to do with specifically is how much are you actually going to get out of it. If you're a table service restaurant and you're doing fresh salads with your meals, and instead of buying bag lettuce, you're actually buying the head of lettuce. Obviously, you're going to have some of that lettuce that's not going to be used, the core, things of that nature. So your yield might be 90% of it or 80% of this particular stock item. So you can put that in there also, and that'll account for the differences. Most auto orders are going to round up. If you've got it set to automatically build your PO, that would be, you can set that up with the reorder level and the par level, and it'll automatically build a PO for you and say, okay, well, you use this many, you need this many to get back up to your par level. This will also show on order if there's any patties currently on order. In this one, there's 1,200 patties on order because I've been playing with it for a while. But generally, you wouldn't come in here to look at that specific number, the on order. We can go to our advanced tab now. We're going to talk about the beef patties and how they're depleted. All menu items are going to deplete by recipe. That means if this beef patty is on a burger, you're obviously going to sell it, every time you sell one of those burgers. You've got some other options in here, though, like by customer. By customer would be a good example of like breath mint, something like that. Plastic forks, plastic spoons, things of that nature. By check, that could also be breath mint, if hotel type situation where you've got, by customer where, okay, we're going to give them shampoo and conditioner every day, so we're going to deplete that stock item by customer, or by check. You've also got by day, where by day would be used. It would be used almost like in a coffee shop type setting for newspapers. So you go out and you get 10 newspapers every day. You can deplete that by day. You've also got by employee shift. That would be used, say, for rubber or plastic gloves. Say each employee, you allot them 10, 15 pairs of rubber gloves per shift. You can obviously go in, put in your stock item rubber gloves, deplete it by employee shift. Now warehouses. Best case scenario, stick with one warehouse. Multi-warehouses become really thick really fast. There's a lot of common terminology in multi-warehouses that people get confused at real easy, especially when it comes to transfers and things of that nature. Multi-warehouse inventory is totally different phone call. Most people use one warehouse. What this is, this is a general location, and usually it's the site, it's the store. If you had a large, complex, example might be like Main Event, something like that, then you might have an upstairs bar, downstairs bar. You might have the bar by the bowling alley. You might have over at the laser tag spot, there's a bar. And you would have, multiple managers that were obviously responsible for P&L in each of those locations, and you would have separate warehouses in that case. It's a totally, you have to set your menu up different, because obviously a bottle of beer at one bar doesn't always equate a bottle of beer at the other bar, because it has to know which warehouse to pull out of. But that's a multi-warehouse, totally different call. So most 98% of Pixel installs are going to stick with one warehouse. We can come over here and we can look, is this item taxable for any of the following taxes? I've only got one tax set up here, and you can select tax, including cost. Now this is this particular stock item we're talking about, not the menu item. Come down here and we've got a weight of patty, tear weight, employee price. What this is used for is mostly liquor, especially if you've got a liquor dispensing system or you've got a weighing system. You obviously need to know, you get a bottle of, schnapps in, and at the end of the night, they stick it up on a scale and they say, okay, well, it weighs this much. We need to know the tear weight also. That would be the weight of the empty bottle, just to be able to figure out how much liquor you sell. So that's where that's used in there. Locations and levels, we have one warehouse here, so no problem there. You've also got sub-recipes. Okay, say my burger has Mike's special sauce on it, and I make my special sauce out of, mayo, a fried egg, A1, and Worcestershire. Okay, so I could come in here and I could build a sub-recipe of that particular recipe item. So I could come in here and put all the ingredients in, set them up, and I could decide whether or not it's going to be a nested recipe or a batch recipe. Nested recipes are used like if you've got a burger joint that sells, 1,000 different kind of burgers. Well, then you can have a nested recipe that's your basic burger. And then you would have your veggie burger and your hot burger and your super hot burger and all that type of stuff. But batch recipes also are good. A lot of people do their own sauces, so a batch recipe would be where you set that up. You set it up in a batch. You say, okay, I'm going to use this much of these ingredients, and this batch is going to be good for 100 hamburgers. So, and it'll do all of that. You got the how to make. You can obviously put an image in here of your burger and make info, anything you want to do in there. You've got a user definable. This is used, oh gosh, people use it for all sorts of stuff. Barcoding, things of that nature. So let's go in here and let's look at, hang on, don't want to say where it changes. Let's go in here and look at the inventory management system. Once you get everything set up, come in here and I've got, when you first hit inventory, you've obviously got, this shows your POs. You've got different filters. You won't have a lot of POs in here generally unless you're really using the inventory system a whole lot and auto-generating POs and things of that nature. The definition of a PO in Pixel is this is stock that I'm going to receive into inventory. These are some POs I set up that I haven't received yet. Say, it really is just set up a PO. You can say new purchase order, you can select your vendor, and we're going to add, it's obviously going to go to the warehouse. We've got date entered, and we've got ship date. I'm not going to get this until next week, okay? So we're going to add, we're going to go over here and find our beef patties. Right here, okay. And we are going to receive, we're going to order whatever it be, 10 cases of this, okay? And we're going to put a cost each case, it's really good meat, so we're going to put a $90 cost on it. You can apply your taxes, things of that nature, and it'll actually show up down here and show you what your taxes are you're looking at and whether the item is active or inactive, the status on it is. So now I can save this PO. Now I've got this other PO. Okay, so that's for next week. So I've got an order coming in here, this one right here that I did earlier today. When you double click on the PO, you got an option. You can revise it, you can receive it, or you can cancel it. Okay? If I revise it, it simply opens it up. That's it. Okay? If I receive it, then I'm going to receive it into my inventory. Okay? When I look into this, I have ordered 5 cases of meat at $90 a case. Totals $450. I didn't add any taxes in here to keep it simple. And I'm going to receive this PO. Process into inventory, yes. Now, what that did is that took those 5 cases of meat, and now I have 5 cases of meat in my inventory. Okay? If you come in here and let's look at this other one. If you hit cancel, it's going to remove the PO from inventory. So if you accidentally double-click on the wrong one, just hit revise, save PO, and it'll keep it there for you. Okay, you can also select these, receive PO, cancel PO. That is one way to get stock into inventory. Another way is just to input new stock. And it's a lot like this. I can go on with that. I can say add. Some parts up here, we've got show all supplier items. We can click on that, and that will actually come down and show me everything that's available. You can also uncheck show primary items. What that would do is if I was looking at another one like Joe's Meat Market, he's not the primary supplier of this, so if I checked on that, that particular item would go away. Okay? So we're going to say somebody ran down and grabbed some of this. We're going to put 2 cases of this in inventory. Same price, looks good. We're going to receive the PO, process in inventory. Now what I've done is I've accepted 5 cases from Labatt and 2 cases from Joe's Meat Market directly in inventory. So we can come in, we can look at our stock levels. It says I've got 7 cases in. 0 bags, 0 individual patties because they're still in there. So now you can go throughout the day. Let's go in and let's fire a couple of these off. That way I can show you the differences. Okay, so we've got a couple of these par burgers going here. Okay, so we've done a few of those. So we should have some usage in inventory now. Okay, physical counts. At the end of the day, you're going to do your physical counts. Now in here we have got all the items that I currently, stock items that I've set up attached to a recipe. It'll show your warehouse, it'll show your reporting group, and you know, how many of these are in here? This is show, right now we're just on show physical. So you do your counts, and we should have, you know, say we've got 6 cases now, okay? So I'd come in here and I put 6 cases in my physical units. According to the system, I'm at -37. We sold 3 burgers. I'm missing 37 patties of beef. Now, if you want to take a look at what the system says, you can click on Show System, and this will actually show you what the system says you should have. Says we should have 6 cases, 3 bags, and 7 patties, for a total of 277 patties. And I'm saying we have 6 cases, which is 240 patties. Okay? That puts a variance of negative 37. Either we had a lot of waste, or somebody left the leftovers out and they all ruined. So we've got several options here. We can obviously, if we process variance, that's pretty much going to say, okay, my count's done for the end of the day. But I got a couple other things I got to do here. One is I have got to add some spillage and waste. Okay, so let's say our patties that we used, patty beef, we know we're short 37. Let's say, you know, whatever, somebody dropped the bag, fell into the mop water. We lost 30 pieces of it. So we put a reason in here, say, okay, we're going to put that adjustments process successfully. Now we can go back into our physical counts. We've already done our count. If we need to change it, we can right now. Whatever we need to do here, we can look at system and things like that. Now we're just going to go ahead and process our variance. Are you sure you want to process? It'll always ask you that, and you hit yes. Generally, you want to do this once per whatever your period is. Some restaurants, they have key product indicators. They'll have a handful, 7 to 10, 15, 2 dozen items that they want inventoried every day. And then they might take a full inventory every month. Or if it's a problem store, and there's signs of lots of waste, you know, a lot of loss, that type of thing. Sometimes they'll come in and make them inventory at every employee shift. Things of that nature. You can process the variance every time. Generally, you want to just do it once, because every time you process it, it essentially resets your inventory back to, okay, this is the beginning inventory count, which would be where it would be for the full day. An example of that would be, okay, you got 2 shifts and they each have to take inventory during their shift. Well, the second shift is their counts are going to be based on the ending count of shift 1 is going to be the beginning count of shift 2. So you're not going to have you're not going to be able to look at it for the full day. There's a way to do it in reporting, but generally you just want to process your variance once a day. So stock take has been done. That's, other than the reporting side, this is pretty much it when it comes to inventory. The biggest hurdles are obviously setting it up. Some of the important factors in your sub-recipes, make sure you use decimal notations. Don't use like 1/2, like 1/2, because the system will actually take your biggest number and say, oh, that's what you mean. You want 2 of those every time. So you want to use decimal notations in your sub-recipes. That's a big thing that we find. Your recipe is obviously your key to your usage. If they're not set up correctly, your numbers are going to be skewed all over the place. Another thing that would obviously skew your numbers is if you change pack sizes without taking your without taking the current inventory to 0 of that item. I've seen people go in and do that, and it screws up the cost is what it does. It skews it all over the place. So if you have to change pack sizes, things of that nature, generally you want to just go in and you want to take that inventory down to 0, change your pack size, then do another PO to bring it back up. Lots of stuff that different restaurants, say you've got a buffet where you've got somebody who is buffet and you've got all this stuff, and you can do a process stock take from the front end. So say you've got, you know, whoever the person is who's seating everybody who comes in, they can go in and they can process stock takes as they see items being replaced on the buffet. That way they can show, okay, well, we made, you know, 3 plates of this, you know, whatever it be, roast beef. We went through 3 plates of that. Because that's obviously something that wouldn't be ordered by the menu item, but you can do that from the front end directly to account for that type of stuff. You've got some other stuff in here. You got shortcuts to your stock supplier setup, your auto POs, and your recipe setups. This is a good place to set up recipes. It's a lot faster in here. Transfers, that is transfers from multi-warehouses, not from site to site or store to store. That's if you've got 2 warehouses and you've got to transfer, okay, I got these 3 kegs and I need these to go to the upstairs bar. Things of that nature. Currently, Pixel does not integrate with any food vendors. That's not to say it wouldn't happen in the future or it couldn't happen through SER, but currently they don't, just simply because vendor systems they're varied in how they order and the technical details that you can get out of their systems. And that's about it, and I think I'm going to open it up to questions here because I'm sure I'm going to have a handful of questions on inventory.
Hi, everyone. Again, if you have a question, if you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll take you off mute, or you can type your question in the question panel box. Alex has a question. He just typed in variance reports with a question mark.
Okay. Yep, we can go ahead and take a look at those. Since I did do that, this should go in. Let's go into inventory. And we'll go to inventory. Where's my variance? I don't want variance by warehouse. Fine, we can do it by warehouse. I'm going to go to the preceding day. We'll go to details. I don't know exactly what this is going to look like with the simple amount that we have ran, but we're going to try it anyway. And of course, we didn't close our day, so let's take a look. Let's go back a while. And still haven't closed the day back that far. Let me go in and close the day, and then we'll rerun the report. I could show you what that looks like. I took it off this menu. Here we go. And this one's been moved around. Essentially what the report comes out looking like, and I'm having a hard time finding it here. Let me get out of here and look at what the variance report comes out looking like. Is it looks just like your, let me show you, the physical counts is what it comes out looking at. It breaks it out literally and shows you this. It'll give you a total at the end of the day. Of the variance where we were showing earlier, we would have been off by 3. This database I haven't messed with enough and just got it out yesterday to take a look at it. But it breaks down and looks at the various reports like that.
Alex, do you have a question to your follow-up?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
You were mentioning that the report is not running because you didn't do end of day. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure the end of day has ever been done on this database ever.
Okay. That report, the variance report for warehouse, is actually broken, and that's why I brought it up, because that report doesn't work whether you do end of day or not. So
Really?
the only other option.
My other
Yeah,
system.
go ahead.
Really? It worked on my other system.
Can you do end of day and we can see, because the sales function button was there under manager and you must have missed it.
Let me go back into it.
Top left.
There it is. Day finished sales. Would you like a detail report? No, I really don't want a detail report. Pay methods, cash,
Okay,
rate.
Enter, yeah. There you go.
We were just running the. I just ran this on a different system for a different store and got it to work. We're going to do this back to August. Now that our day is closed.
You see the error right there in the background. The same error we've always gotten. So if you were able to run it on another system, that system is different than all the standard ones because we always receive the same error.
I was able to run it on a different system. We run this, and it just sits.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, from what I understand. Sure. Yeah, if you can look that up for us, because we have customers, a bunch of customers using the inventory, and none of them are able to run variance reports right now, except with data miner, which is a whole different issue.
Right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I got one sitting right over there behind me that I've been running it on constantly. So, and I pulled in this other day.
Yeah, if you can maybe get back to us with what's causing this specific error.
Yeah, I'll find that out because I know it's not an issue. This is the first time I've seen it, so.
Okay. I have a couple more questions if we have time.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. In the stock item setup, reorder and restock levels, we have a bunch of customers using that with the auto PO. The main problem that we run into with the reorder restock level is the fact that they have to be put in by units, which is a big pain. We have a suggestion where instead of locking it down to units, we can open it up where the customer can choose what they want as their reorder quantity. I'm sorry, unit quantity. Make sense?
Oh, okay. Rather than the unit, you like cases, that type of thing.
Yeah. For example, let's say if you're like in the Pixels example, you're doing the olives. The example is olives. So you have like 400 olives in a jar or whatever. You want to order 14 jars as your par. You got to do 14 times 400 and put that big number in there. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
So we should be able to do that by any one of the unit, container, or package. So maybe like a drop down or something to help us out there.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you also mentioned double clicking on a PO brings up the three options: revise, receive, cancel. The cancel is actually to cancel the prompt, not to cancel the PO. To cancel the PO, you select it and you hit cancel PO on top. I just went over this with a customer yesterday. Yeah, if you double click on one.
Oh yeah.
Double click on the PO. Yeah, that cancel button just will cancel this prompt.
Right. Yeah. Here's where you would go to do your cancel PO.
Yeah. And then another thing, you did a waste for like some patties or whatever, and you put in the reason dropped. How do we report on that?
Currently, that is through a custom report. We don't have a standard report on waste right now. Waste shows up in the process in the variance report. It'll show a number there, but it doesn't show the reason. So we've never really been asked for the reason on an SCR that I know of, but I know it's available on custom reports.
Yeah, I mean, that means the customer has to pay another $800 on top of their pro license just to get a report that says dropped. You know what I mean? It's very difficult explaining that to a customer.
Sure.
Yeah, so we need, one of the major things that we need to address with PixelPoint is the reporting. The system is great, but if it doesn't report what you're doing, it's useless. It needs to say everything that you do. It needs to have it there. That's what people want to see.
Right.
And it's great that we have that waste feature. It's awesome. You can say how many you spilled, why you spilled it, but if you can't go back and look at it, it doesn't do anybody any good.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of that is based on the number of requests for it. I know that SERs, they go through several different, levels, and that's the way those, especially the reporting stuff. After so many requests for something, generally it gets put in automatically.
I understand. My point is it shouldn't be a request. It should be there because you guys built the reason entry, the text entry for the reason. It should be there. You know what I mean? What's the point of it being there if I can't see it?
Well, don't know.
Yeah. And then my last question is the physical counts. If you go into physical counts, you have the ability to add, remove columns, or I think that's under stock level, 1 or 2. If you like double click or right click, you can add, remove columns. There. And once you leave this screen and you come back, it's gone. It defaults back. So we have customers complaining that they have it set up in a specific way that they want to see it, but then whenever it doesn't save it. Yeah, it doesn't save it. So when you come back, it all goes back to however it wants to do it.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's the back-end functionality, the whole calculations and everything. It's perfect as far as I'm concerned, or as far as our customers are concerned. But these few little things that I pointed out make it a little cumbersome, and because it becomes a little more cumbersome, people don't use it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think you mentioned that a lot of people aren't using inventory, and I think these are the problems why they're not. Because other than that, the inventory system is by far one of the best.
I would disagree with that. The reason why most restaurateurs don't use inventory because inventory is difficult in any system, even on paper.
Sure.
Pencil.
Sure.
It's not the reason why they use it here. I mean, I've been over development groups where we actually develop entire inventory systems, and generally it's not usability. It's just the inventory process in general, and they're all learned behaviors. Restaurateurs are generally, they're good at running their restaurant. And when you get into inventory, you're getting into cost and allocation, things of that nature. So, yeah, and we're not saying the Pixel inventory system is perfect. It's better than some, not great at some things, but it does allow functionality there that some systems don't even touch.
Personally, I think it's great. I think the part that we're lacking is just the reporting on the functions. Other than that, the actual workings of it, I think it's perfect. I have a lot of customers that are very happy using it. It's just the reporting.
Okay.
This is not there.
Right.
We've got a few more questions in the queue. Thank you, Alex. Let's see. David Saddleton, do you have a question? Hello, David? Nope. Okay. Let's move to the next question. Steve types in, Stockboy is with Pro, but can you use a limited part of inventory with Standard?
Yes, you can. You can get a daily inventory usage with Standard. That was that first type of inventory I went over at the very beginning of the call. Essentially, you would just get a daily usage report. You would go in and you set up your recipe to each of your menu items, and then go in and add the report to the end-of-day reports. You'd go to Administrator System Setup, POS Reports, and you would add the report in here. Pixel Pause, Pixel Reports. You would add this inventory usage report. And then you would get a daily usage report inventory. It would have costs associated to it, but it wouldn't be perpetual. You wouldn't be able to receive POs. You wouldn't be able to show variance, things of that nature. But you could show what inventory you used.
Okay, we've got another question. Let's see here. Lemik Habib, you had a question? see. They're asking, how can we remove the $ from reports, data miner, and PO?
The dollars, I'm not 100% sure. We'll probably take that question offline. Send me an email because I need to look at which reports. Whether I assume you're talking about inventory items, things of that nature. But in the ones that I've seen, the
yes,
as far as units, things like that, those come up correctly.
Let's see, we have another question from Hamad. He asks, can we create sub-recipes inside a sub-recipe? Can we create, he's asking if they can create sub-recipes inside a sub-recipe.
Multiple levels of recipes.
Yeah.
You can create, you can in a way. The way you would do it is with nested recipes instead of a batch recipe. Obviously, you could have a special sauce on a burger, and then have that burger be part of a nested recipe, and then add that to the super special burger. So, yeah, there would be ways to do that.
Okay. Let's see. I have another question from Joe. It's he types, any way countdown affect inventory quantity?
The inventory quantity. Hang on, I'm reading your question here. Can the countdown amount be reflected? Give me some clarification on count, on what you mean by that. Obviously, as you use units, it's going to pull it out of inventory. Oh, okay. You're talking about, yes, you can set that up. Say you've got a, the way it's supposed to work, and I've never actually set it up, but from what I've been told, the way you would set that, so you got a daily special. You're gonna sell these certain, you know, candy, whatever, and you've got 100 of them. You go and you set up a menu item, and then it would count down in your system. And if you've got it set up to automatically flag when you're out of that item, it should gray that button out on the order menu whenever you're out of that item. So the way you could do a countdown, the way you could set the countdown on the front end is you could input a, say, you know, somebody goes back to the store, buys more of that candy bar, brings it back in. You can go in the front end and do a pay-in and select that that stock item and put it into stock that way. You can also do inventory counts in the front end also.
There's another question from David. He had his hand raised earlier, but he typed in his question. Can you run a report on what needs to be ordered according to your minimum stock levels, or an auto-generated report based on these levels?
I believe you can actually run a par level support. You can run an inventory levels, which would give you each individual item and what you've currently got in stock. That would be one way to do that. You could auto-generate the report with a scheduled task. And you could also run it by PO. You could run a PO report also that would show you that. auto-generated POs.
We've got another question from Mohammed. He's asking, can we make the inventory values 0 without affecting the stock item's cost?
Yes, you can. And I've actually been asked this several times, especially in training whenever we're going in and setting up and we're showing them how to use inventory and going in and adding items and things like that. The fastest, easiest way to do it is with the clear all sales.executable. You can go in and select stock in there, and it will clear all your stock levels down to 0 without affecting your cost.
Again, if you have a question, you can raise your hand or type your question in the question panel box. I don't. Oh, we've got one from Alex. He says, I thought we had integration to Cisco or eCisco.
If we do, I haven't heard of it. I mean, there could be a situation where, you know, we had a customer and we built an integration for them, but not anything that I would know of that's specifically documented.
He had just mentioned that JVC had mentioned something about this during the advanced training course.
Yeah, I know we've looked at several integration ones, but nothing that's publicly available for everybody. So.
We've got another question from Alan. So, Alan, I'll go ahead and unmute your line. Alan? Hello, Alan. Did you have a question? Nope. Okay. Again, if you do have a question, you can raise your hand or type your question in the question panel box. Mohammed has a question. To upgrade the PixelPoint from version 10 to version 11, will it affect the inventory?
That is a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I've never tried it. I'm assuming you mean inventory levels and inventory costing. I don't know. I've never tried it. Haven't seen any documentation on problems with it, but it would definitely be a situation where you want to back up the database before you do. But haven't heard of a problem. So.
Okay, at this time I don't see any more questions. I don't see any new questions that have been added to the chat box or any raised hands. So I think at this time we'll go ahead and conclude today's session. Thank you, Mike. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
Nope. I will. I've got a couple of these questions written down, and I'll find out, and we'll post it in the forums.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for joining.